Well, good morning. I'm thrilled to be here with a world-class roster of the world's top executives, technologists, futurists, and more. Today's dynamic labor market proves to be a tale of two economies. On the one hand, we have the lowest unemployment in 15 years, but coupled with staggering wage growth and also AI at the forefront like never before, proving to disrupt our workplace at a pace we haven't really seen. So, joining us now, we have Jason Buechel, CEO of Whole Foods Market, Debbie Dyson, CEO of 110, Lisa Gavelber, founder and head of Grow with Google, Ravin Jesuthasan, global leader of Mercer's Transformation Services business, and Igor Chechilsky, founder, chairman, and CEO of WorldQuant. Thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you.
I want to kick off the conversation now with a topic that we're all thinking about, which is the concept of a resilient workforce. We think about this as individual contributors, but also leaders of global organizations. So I want to open this question to the whole group, and maybe, Ravin, we'll start with you, though. But how do you guys think about and define the concept of a resilient workforce, and what strategies do you believe are essential for building one?
Yeah, Maneet, that's a great question. And I think it's a workforce that is built to reinvent itself and has the space, the assets, resources, and time to do so. There's a great quote that those of you with as much gray hair as me may recall from the 70s, and it's from Alvin Toffler's book, Future Shock, where he said the illiterate of the 21st century won't be those who can't read and write. It'll be those who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I think that's really at the heart of what a resilient workforce is. Again, having the space, the capacity, the resources for us to design in space for learning and well-being into the flow of work.
Mm-hmm. Lisa, I'd love to hear from you as well.
I was going to say something similar. I think agility is going to be the name of the game. The exciting thing about all these technologies is they are going to change the way we live, work, and play. But that also means that we have to work differently. And in a lot of ways, what we're going to see is that we get a lot of extra help from the technology if we know how to use it. So I think the most important thing for a resilient workforce is going to be agility and learning how to use these new technologies so that they can be an assistant in the work that we do.
And that's really a cornerstone of a lot of the work that you do at Grow with Google and in all of your organizations, which we're going to hit on a little bit. Another big opening topic is the concept of cultural leadership. As you're adapting to this changing workforce dynamics, your culture really needs to be front and center. And so, Igor, I'm curious to hear from you with WorldQuant, because you started this globally recognized asset management, quant-focused asset management from WorldQuant, but also a nonprofit WorldQuant University. Can you talk a little bit about how you approached that ecosystem as you were building it out and what your key purpose was there?
Okay, well, we have always thought that talent is distributed uniformly around the world, but opportunity is not. And as we built WorldQuant, we kept that in mind. We opened offices in the different locations: China, India, Israel, Hungary, and so on. And the objective was to get the brightest people, wherever they are, and they were not all in New York, and put it all together in a global organization. And now you take WorldQuant University, and the idea is simple, but now instead of consuming talent, you are producing talent. So how do you produce talent? You go global, and you make it. You make a free online education, a free online accredited education, available to anybody around the world, and so you're democratizing it, and it becomes spread out. So about half of our students from there are from developed countries. The other half are from China, Africa, and other places. So really, same process, play twice, once forward, once in reverse, and the result is number one, access to people, and number two, producing good people.
Right, and then that gives you a great talent pipeline also for WorldQuant, of course, right?
Well, we are not allowed to use those
Oh,
students,
okay, I apologize, yeah, there.
but it gives our competitors.
It gives your competitors, great.
Great.
Very philanthropic of you.
Yes.
And so, Debbie, tell us a little bit about 110, because it's such an incredible organization. I want to hear a little bit more about the mission and the goals of the organization, which is very ambitious, right? And very esteemed roster of board of the top executives in the world, and your founder as well.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Happy to share. So 110 has been in existence since 2020. It was founded by 5 former CEOs from Ken Frazier from Merck, Ken Chenault from American Express, Jenny Rometty from IBM, Charles Phillips from Infor, and Kevin Sharer from Amgen. Just like a test, I always have to remember. So all 5 of them, but in the height of, I would call it chaos in 2020, they came together with a business roundtable group to form this organization that's focused on talent without a 4-year degree, leading with family-sustaining wages. So this isn't minimum wages, but these are jobs that can help individuals provide for their family in a more meaningful way, but focusing on skills first as a way to do that. So less on the degree and the skills required for the job. So, we've been at it for 4 years. We have organizations, they typically are Fortune 500 because they have resources and they have jobs and they have a commitment. So we have the Deltas, we have the IBMs, we have the Mercks, we have the United, we have the Deloittes. The list goes on, and it's an incredible coalition of like-minded individuals. They're really sort of putting their power behind, obviously, finding great jobs for great talent.
Mm-hmm. That's such a tremendous initiative. So congratulations on all that success just a couple years out. And speaking of that, Lisa, I remember hearing about Grow with Google during COVID, during an interview with your CFO, Ruth Porat. And it's a huge economic initiative, a $1 billion target opportunity. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and how you've approached utilizing that? The resource?
Yeah. So we started Grow with Google with the belief that the opportunities that are created by technology should truly be available to everyone. And we honed in on one particular societal problem, which is quite similar to what Debbie was talking about, which is that only about 1/3 of Americans get a 4-year college degree. But the vast majority of good-paying jobs and careers in the United States, and it's pretty similar in other countries, say they require a degree, which basically means 80 million Americans are locked out of the best jobs in our country. And our belief was absolutely having a degree is life-changing. It just should not be the only way to change your life. So we created a training and certificate program called the Google Career Certificates. And we train people of every background, regardless of your work experience or your level of education, for high-paying, in-demand job fields. Things like data analytics, IT support, user experience design, project management, digital marketing, and now even cybersecurity. And we'll teach you everything you need to know to get an entry-level job. And I'm really proud to say we've already graduated more than 600,000 people in just a few years, from low-wage work into some of the most high-paying, in-demand fields in our country, with 70% of those people saying they got a substantial career advancement within 6 months of finishing the program. So we're really proud of this work, but we also know that this problem is gigantic and we can't do it alone. So built into the Grow with Google program and the Google Career Certificate program is a real ecosystem approach like 110. We have thousands of employers who hire our graduates, including 150 of the biggest companies in our country. We also work with educational institutions. We started with community colleges, but I'm also really proud to say we're working in public high schools now. Wow. In Anaheim alone, we graduated 500 high school kids with a Google Career Certificate last year. And we're working in 4-year colleges and universities because you might have seen the latest stats that 50% of people with bachelor's degrees are ending up in jobs that don't require a degree. They're ending up largely in hourly work. So We're excited to bring our expertise in these fields, but also really to work with an ecosystem of employers and educational institutions to help folks of all backgrounds advance in their careers and, most importantly, gain real economic mobility.
So as a follow-on to that, I do want to touch on, because it's such a diverse need set, right? As how do you tailor the needs that leaders have, including those from like underserved communities, to give them the resources and skills that they're looking for?
So the first premise of our program is that working adults, unfortunately, can't afford to sit in a classroom. More than 20% of Americans don't know their work schedule for the following week, and they certainly don't control it. So the first principle is online on demand is essential for working folks. And the second principle is that people learn in different ways. So you can do our program on your own, online, or you can do it in a cohort environment. In addition to the educational institutions, we also partner with the country's best workforce development nonprofits. So people like Year Up, Perscolas, Merit America, NPower, Goodwill, workforce boards like the San Diego Workforce Board. And so there's also a cohort-based environment if you want to, do it in a more, to have a group to hold you accountable, which is what, a lot of people also prefer. So the most important thing is really meeting people where they are.
Mm-hmm. And so, Jason, you run one of the world's leading retailers, Whole Foods, and I want to broaden it out to you and then also go to Igor and Raven about broader leadership principles that you'd say are essential for navigating this changing workforce environment at such a rapid pace.
I think one of the most important parts for us is servant leadership. One of the areas that I've really tried to put a focus on is something I like to call store centricity, where our leaders are helping look at all the impacts that we have to both our team member and our customer experiences. And for us, our team members are the lifeblood. They're the secret sauce of Whole Foods Market. And so if we can put the right focus on making sure we can develop our team members to make sure that they have the skills and experiences to best serve our customers, we can help create win-win outcomes. And for our team members, some of this involves helping create skills that they can have for life. Our career development program that we have for all levels of leadership at our store, as an example, is something that our team members are able to use both within Whole Foods and outside. Our apprenticeship programs, where team members can actually get certified in a trade, again, they could use both in Whole Foods or outside. And what's great for our customers is they benefit from this as well. It's why they come to our stores, to have those interactions. And so from a leadership perspective, if we can be really focused on what's happening at the store, and ultimately looking at the outcomes that our team members can drive to best serve our customers, I feel like that's the right winning approach here.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that that's really fascinating. I want to take a little bit of a step back because I am an avid Whole Foods shopper, as I'm sure many people are in here. And I know we're in this post-COVID era, but a lot of the workforce dynamics that are shifting really got turbocharged during that time. And so while a lot of businesses were either shuttered or closed permanently or shuttered temporarily, Whole Foods was very much became a hub. It was one of the few places that you could go out during that time period. And I'm wondering, any leadership lessons from that era that have transcended into where you are now? You've been with the company, I think, over 11 years, correct?
Yes, I have. Well, first and foremost, it really was the focus that our team members had on serving our customers. The passion that they had during those difficult times during the pandemic was really at the root of how do we best serve our customers given this difficulty. And one of the things that I really take from the pandemic overall is no matter what the adversity was, our store team leaders, our team leaders within our stores, they helped figure out how do we pivot and deal with whether there are restrictions that are being put into place or challenges on the supply chain to things that we need to do to make sure whether it was a Thanksgiving dinner or a holiday meal, how do we continue to serve the customer? And so one of the things that I got really inspired by was the innovation that we saw, and it actually had me help make some adjustments to how we bring some of the empowerment back to our stores. Because they were able to help make some of the adjustments and changes to better serve our customers than things that we could figure out in Austin, Texas. And so that was a big lesson learned for me.
And Igor, I'd love to follow up with you. You're on the other side of a spectrum. You're running a global asset management firm, 26 offices around the world, right? So during that era through to today, some of your biggest leadership lessons were how you're navigating at the top of this pyramid, so to speak, two different organizations with multiple offices around the world. What are some of your key leadership lessons and takeaways?
Well, number one is when it comes to upskilling, the best way to do it is often simply to take the new technology and assign it to people, and people happily learn it because it's so cool, so it's so interesting. And so we seem to be upskilling ourselves fairly effortlessly as new technologies develop. And what was the second part of your question?
It was just broadly leadership lessons that have transcended from that era to today as we're facing all this increasing headwinds in the marketplace and all of these changing workforce dynamics, hybrid work, AI.
Well, just keep doing what you're doing and focus on doing, on following your vision, on doing what's right. And all these things just kind of work themselves out.
Yeah, totally.
One year this comes at you, next year that comes, but if you stay the course,
Yeah.
you'll be fine.
So Ravin, I want to switch now because you're coming from a different perspective. You've written many books on the future of work. You even have an upcoming book coming out. Talk to us a little bit about the balance and the need for efficiency and productivity with ensuring the well-being for professional development for employees.
Yeah, and this goes back, Maneet, to the question you asked about what leaders need to do differently. I consistently see in the work we do with our clients and the research that we do that they do two things fundamentally differently. They bend the demand curve of work in a fundamentally different way. It kind of goes back to some of Jason's points about how do I redesign work so that I can connect talent to it with as little frictional cost as possible, enabling talent to flow to business opportunities as they change, as they transform, and taking all of those roadblocks out of the way. So it's, instead of thinking of that one-to-one relationship between a job and a job holder, how do I think about the relationship between skills and work? So that's one part of the equation. The other actually goes back to what Lisa said, which is how do we bend the supply curve of work in a different way? How do we make work more accessible to many more people? How do we make skills the currency of work as opposed to a degree or the school you went to or the community you came from? And thereby open the aperture so that more people see themselves engaged in our mission. And the thing that's been fascinating to me over the last 3 years and the work that we've been doing with some very large organizations is as we've bent the demand curve of work to incorporate Gen AI, as we've bent the supply curve to make work more diverse and inclusive, the economic part of the equation has been truly transformative. There's a large insurance company we worked with recently where we were able to increase the productivity of their developer population by over 600%. A financial services organization where we were able to put the organization in a position of releasing up to 50% of their capacity to be able to improve their customer service levels and onboard new clients. So I do think we have a really interesting opportunity at this point in time, but only if we change the rules of what it means to lead.
And so, Jason, I'm curious from your perspective, how you're folding in technology from, on the retail front and operating your stores, but also from the workforce front.
Yeah, we're doing both. I'll start from the workforce front first, where a lot of it is happening behind the scenes. You know, one of my top goals is finding ways by which we can take some of the administrative tasks, the non-value-added tasks from a customer perspective, and figure out ways to automate them or support it better for our team members. And where we can get a win-win is it creates a more enriching role for the team member, and then they can spend time in more value-added areas, like serving our customers. And so those two pieces, I think, will play a big role for us. At the same time, for customers, we want to make sure that the shopping experience can be easier. So finding ways by which we can support if they're coming in the store in advance or while they're in the store, whether it's locating an item, looking at an extended set of items that they could purchase online, to helping the checkout experience. Examples like us putting in Amazon One, which allows customers to identify as Prime and pay. Well, it only might seem like milliseconds, those actually add up. And it makes it easier for the customer to check out. And it's actually improving the transaction time overall.
Yeah, and then I know from our prep call with the team, we were talking about the Zen-like experience and that marriage between customer and workforce happiness. Can you talk to us about how that layers into all of the changes as they're being implemented? Because I think that is really at the heart of a lot of these workplace dynamics that we're grappling with, is that at the end of the day, how the client, the customer, who you're serving, feels that you're aligned with their values, but also how the employees feel aligned as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And for us, one of our core values is really around our customer, and ultimately, without our customers, we don't have a business. And so working backwards from the customer and being customer obsessed is a really important part of our culture. And so as we're making some of these changes, it's so important to make sure that our team members have the context of why are we doing this. And in many cases, it's going back to, we're doing this for the customer for X, Y, and Z reasons. And for us to be able to keep up with the pace of change of what we need to do, I think making sure we can stay connected to why we're doing it and how we can actually create a better team member experience and what the benefits are for them as well, I think is an important part to help support the change curve.
So we've talked a lot about how technology helps to further organizations and all of these challenges that we're grappling with, these market headwinds. But upskilling, as we touched on earlier, I want to dig a little bit deeper on that now. And so, Lisa, can you talk to us a little bit about ways that Google leverages technology, AI, machine learning to personalize the learning experiences and track learner progress?
Sure, yeah. So I think AI is obviously a really big technology shift, and I think if we're smart about it, it will increase the circle of opportunity for millions and millions of people. But the key is that we have to be proactive about it. It's going to change the nature of work, it just is. But that is a gigantic opportunity. Many of you might have seen the studies from Harvard or Stanford or MIT that basically say you can take a worker with less experience or lower skills and complement them with AI, and they perform at the level of a person who has more experience or is a higher skilled worker. And that is an amazing equalizer if we're smart about putting it to work. The key, though, is that will not happen automatically. We need to make sure that people know how to use these tools, that they serve as a tool for anyone, everyday workers. And that's why we're investing. We actually announced a $75 million AI opportunity fund that is specifically for upskilling workers on the topic of AI. So we launched the fund. We're we're giving grants to high-quality nonprofits who will train workers in the use of AI, partly through a course that we developed called AI Essentials, which is for everyday workers to use it to learn what AI is, what you have to be careful about with AI, but also really how to put it to work for everyday tasks to be more productive. So I'm really excited about this fund. I think the combination of fund and the actual course are going to really empower people to use AI for the tool that it's meant to be, to help us all be more productive and effective. And as this research says, I think even for the lowest skilled, least experienced workers, it can be a great equalizer if we do it right.
And Robin, I caught you nodding your head a bunch, so I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, I completely aligned with Lisa. There have been a ton of use cases that we've seen, whether it's in contact centers, the work that Eric Brynjolfsson has done at Stanford, where you see those differential gains. We've seen it in the work our consultants are doing. I think the trick, though, is ensuring that we go beyond the headline of a job to what is the work that is changing, because we consistently see three things coming out. Some activities being substituted by not just Gen AI, but legacy technologies like machine learning and RPA. Lots of other work being increasingly where the human is augmented. You know, she's made super productive as a result of tools like Gen AI. And then what you also see is either one of two things, the space for new human work in the business model or the demand for new skills. And I think our ability to keep reinventing work and looking at how do we consistently keep elevating the human in work, consistently move our people up to do the things that they're really passionate about, but that requires the reinvention of work and getting beyond the headlines of, you know, this job can be automated versus that job can't be.
That alignment is so important. And on that note, Debbie, I want to talk to you a little bit about how 110 collaborates with educational institutions and training providers to ensure that when you're upskilling, these programs are aligned for the evolving needs of the employees that you're working with.
Yeah, I mean, I think as Lisa mentioned, this is a pretty robust ecosystem. You know, it's pretty amazing the number of talent developers and partners that are actually, you know, out here that are pretty much committed to this effort. And so, you know, one of the things that we try to do with our coalition, you know, we have, you know, a little bit less than what Google does, but it's rich insights that we're actually getting from these Fortune 500 companies that tell us what are the types of skills that you need for the types of jobs that exist. And what we're trying to do then is match those skills to the talent, and again, using the same words, meet the talent where they are. So you're doing sort of an advanced, you know, call it match.com, just to sort of date myself a little bit, but you're trying to match the technical skills to the skills that the talent is bringing. And we identify partners that actually have that same exact match. So exact same names, that's why I said it's pretty fascinating how robust this is. But what we then do from there is we're actually holding these accountability metrics to our partners also. So how do you measure success? How do we make sure that once talent is placed, that it's sustained? We don't want to be back here again to say it did not work. So what are those measurements that we can put in place in identifying the right partners to match, again, the talent where they are and the employers based on the types of jobs, I think, is the way that this is evolving.
So you mentioned talent a couple of times. Igor, you raised your hand. I would love for you to weigh in.
Yeah, I want to weigh in. There's a bifurcation going on of companies. Some are legacy companies that are embedding AI into them, and some are new companies that are building their whole business processes around the AI. And I always like to think of the legacy companies. It's a little bit like putting wings on dogs. You get dogs that are a little bit faster, and sometimes they can fly and hop over hills, but in the end, they're still dogs. But the new companies, you're putting wings on birds, and those companies can really fly and achieve the great productivity gains. So it's important to realize that unless you cross the chasm into the new companies, eventually you'll be a dog with wings, and that's not a good position.
Jason, you're nodding and laughing. You have something you want to add?
Well, I think I agree, and I think one of the parts is figuring out the balance of how you bring some of these capabilities to life. And I was mentioning earlier, the context piece is so important. So there's areas where we are leveraging AI to help improve our ordering processes and such. And sometimes this can be sort of an intimidating thing of like, well, what is this doing for my job if I'm working in these areas? And what our role is to figure out how are we upskilling you in things that in the work you're going to be doing into the future. And one of the benefits we have is we're a thriving, growing business. You know, we have a goal around going from opening just a single few stores a year to 30 plus as we go forward. And that's one of the things that we need is to make sure that we've got the talent to support this growth. And so it's going to mean folks doing different work, and it's explaining why we're taking and leveraging opportunities to, whether it's automation, AI, what have you, why we're doing this and why it's important for the customer that we're doing this work, and understanding what does this transform now to how we're going to do work. And this is something where I don't see this just happening once or twice. This is going to be a new, always-on experience that I believe that we're going to have as employers and helping support the journey as we go forward.
Yeah. So I come from a business background, so I want to get down to brass tacks on ROI and how can organizations, this is for the whole group, effectively measure the ROI of workforce development initiatives and talent management strategies, right? Because initially it's a pretty big investment and there might be, you know, some employees who are part of the workforce that adapts quicker than others. And, you know, as all of you are business leaders, how do you approach and think about that marriage of the two?
Yeah, maybe let me just jump in real quick. So for 110, since we're a nonprofit, and I mentioned the founders who all come from the business world, so this is constantly a heart and head conversation. So you have very purpose-driven, we want to give back, we want to help talent, and then you obviously have on the other side of how do I actually get the return on the investment, because as members join, there is a contribution. And so how do you measure that? So twice a year, we do ask a coalition or our companies to provide data. So tell us what you're actually doing relative to our mission. How many hires did you have? How many promotions? What are you doing relative to apprenticeships? What is your retention? And so twice a year, we're asking for that information, and we provide a balanced scorecard. So what we're doing is sharing, here's how you're doing relative to the mission. How many jobs did you identify that do not require a 4-year degree? How many did you hire into those particular jobs? Then we compare. All these companies like to be competitive, so now we compare and say, here's how Delta is doing versus United, and so on and so forth. So we give them comparatives, and then we actually do something to show externally how they're showing up as well. So twice a year, I think that actually helps sort of hold them accountable. Our mission is 1 million jobs in 10 years.
In 10 years,
In 10 years. So it's pretty ambitious.
That's
we're
very
at 4
ambitious.
years, and we're at 122,000, so we have a little bit of a ways to go. But we're starting to see the ability to scale starting to pick up, and I do think that ROI, or that balanced scorecard, has been a key for it.
And Robin, please, jump in.
I just want to build on that point, because I think that the mindset shift really has to be one of how do we reskill and upskill continuously and ensure that there is that space for upskilling and reskilling in the flow of work, not saying to someone, you can go reskill, you know, between 10 and 12 at night when the kids have gone to bed and before you go to bed, right? One of the examples that I love, it's the Financial Skills Commission in the UK did a study in the financial services sector and was able to show that a number of their members were able to save £50,000 per employee by reskilling and upskilling talent from their sunset jobs to their sunrise jobs, as opposed to doing the usual churn and burn, right? I'm going to let a bunch of people over here with legacy skills go, and then go out and pay above market premiums over there for that compressed pool of people that everyone else is chasing. And I think that the business case for that, Maneet, is increasingly emerging, and it's a really strong one.
And that sounds, I'm sure the research is proving that that is definitely the case. Lisa, I would love to have you weigh in on this factor as well, because on the one hand, you're within one of the largest, most innovative tech companies in the world. On the other hand, you're focused on Grow with Google and these initiatives. So you have these two varying perspectives, which are so interesting.
Yeah, I think as a society, we are so far past the point where each of us can learn everything we need to know in high school or in our college time, right? Our careers are all journeys, and the way the world works is changing so fast that all of us are going to need to reskill all the time. It's actually really interesting. We created our program, as I mentioned, for people without college degrees. That was the focus, and the vast majority of people that we graduate, that is the case. But we opened our eyes shortly into the program and realized there were thousands of Google employees who were taking the courses. And we were like, wait, you know, why would that be? And it was because people wanted a different career. We had administrative professionals who wanted to go into program management, or we had marketing people who had always wanted to be a UX designer. And there had never been an easy way to change from one career and get a high-quality training program and a certification at an extremely low cost in a very quick period of time without actually going back to school. And I think that is revolutionary for people. But the reality for employers is they're desperate to find affordable, accessible, efficient ways to help their people move around as the needs of the companies change, right? These companies are not static, nor will they be. We're moving into a period of accelerated change. And so the good news is these technologies are all learnable and people are great learners. And when we have simple, accessible, affordable ways for people to learn, especially at their own pace, and especially on demand online, it's working for both the employee and for employers.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And so we're just about out of time, but I love to end always with a bit of a lightning round and get everybody's perspectives. So I would love to hear from the group, what do you believe are the most pressing issues or opportunities facing the future of work today? So Jason, we'll start with you.
I think we've talked about a lot today. It's making sure that our team members are teed up for success to do their jobs today and for tomorrow, and that we're consciously thinking about this every day as leaders.
Mm-hmm. Deb?
Yeah, very similar. I would just say this is a cultural transformation, so doing this may sound easy, but companies are definitely going to have to make sure that they have practice change and good change management behaviors to absorb what's happening.
I would say in this time of change, it's actually not just companies that need to learn to use these, or employees of big companies that need to learn to use these tools, but they can be really empowering for our nation's small businesses. You can now do all kinds of things you couldn't easily do before as a small business because the technology enables you to, and it's going to be really important in the public sector. We've also recently launched an AI course for educators that I think puts the power of the technology into teachers' hands to make more personalized learning for students. So I would say there's opportunity everywhere, not just in the corporate environment.
I think there's a real opportunity and a burning platform for us to evolve into that skills-powered organization. If anyone's interested, this hasn't been released yet, but at the Oliver Wyman Forum booth, you can get a QR code for the Sloan Management's Review Skills-Based Strategy Guide, and it comes out in 2 weeks, so a sneak preview here. But I think the three things, Maneet, that organizations have to do is make work design a core capability, not just something that perhaps HR does or the sort of a line manager who's motivated. I think making skill development a part of the strategic plan, not something that the HR function does when there's a budget. And then I think making the redeployment of talent at scale and at speed critical to the execution of that operating model.
Great. And Igor?
I think you have to push the talent forward and at the same time provide them with education. We are starting a company called the World Quant Education Technologies, which can create a class in minutes on any topic. And I think it's technologies like this that, in combination with work assignments that are forward-looking, that will make people progress and still enjoy their work.
Awesome. Well, with that, we're out of time. I want to thank all of my esteemed panelists for joining me today.
Thank you.